Hi, welcome back guys. This is your friend, the What If guy. Back with another fanfiction. This is the movie of What If Betrayed Issei was Reborn. Now before starting, please give this video a like and subscribe to the channel if you want more videos like this. Now let's get into the fanfic. The beginning. It had been months after the total defeat of Trihexa. It was all thanks to Issei's efforts. He fought to his last breath, leading to the destruction of the boosted gear and its power. Issei was heartbroken to think that his best friend and destined to be lifelong partner had died, and this was for good. During the first week, the girls avoided Issei, thinking that he needed space to be himself, and mourned the loss of his partner Drake. He had stopped doing his devil contract and stopped going to film the Issei Dragon show in the supernatural world based off him. Issei deep down hoped that the girls would be here to comfort him, but every time that he called them or asked them to be there with him, they would all say they are really busy with the devil jobs and repairs for the aftermath of the previous battle. Today was the day he was going back to living his life. He knew deep down that it was Drake would have wanted. Making his way to school, he didn't talk to anyone. He slowly made his way to class in calm manner, wearing an expressionless face. To him this was just as any other ordinary day, so to him the day went by like a flash, and right now he was going to the ORC to do his contracts and jobs and see the faces of the people he missed so much. Walking, expecting blissful faces upon return, was a little taken aback when he noticed that Kiba was the only one who seemed joyous to see the return of his brother. The girl acted as if he had been with them since the beginning of the month. Feeling a little sad, Issei then went on to talk to his fiancée, Rias Gremory, the most appealing woman he had ever laid eyes on. "Hi Rias, my wife-to-be, aren't you glad to see me?" the boy asked in teasing voice. "Ah Issei, you are back. Good to see you," she said, looking down and continuing with the paperwork on her table. He went on to greet all his other wives, to be only to receive the same reply even from Irina and Asia. This disappointed him a lot. He then decided it was best to go see his clients. Maybe when he comes back things will be back to normal. We see Issei returning from his devil duties. Today he had gotten 6 new contracts and hoped he could surprise Rias on doing such a good job. Teleporting into the ORC room, we see him landing in the room with a big grin on his face. "Rias, I got 6 new contracts today," he said, handing Rias the payment he had received. Rias immediately smiled at him, then went back to work. The day had reached its end, and right now we see everyone prepping to leave for home, basically, since all of them lived together. Issei was the first to leave and was shocked to see he was the only one and Kiba going. He then decided to get to the bottom of this and lied to Kiba, telling him that he had forgotten his jersey at school. On his way back he saw Rias and Aquino heading to Kua's college for higher education. He followed them to see them heading back to their classroom. He followed them till they entered and waited outside so he can follow them to what they were truly hiding. After about 20 minutes, Issei grew impatient and suspicious as to why they had not come out yet. He then walked to the class and opened the door slightly, not to alert the occupants of the room. What he saw made him so speechless and heartbroken that he could not move. It was the life was draining out of him. Right before his eyes, he could Rias and Aquino lying at the sides of a handsome blonde-looking man with a tall and built figure. Both were panting heavily whilst the guy was only sweating. "This is the best Issei I have had all month. Maybe I should have left that pervert long ago." Yes, he made happy, but the only thing useful about him was his sacred gear, and he has lost that too along with us, said the black-haired woman, looking at her friend. "At least your marriage isn't official. I am going to marry that boy someday, and it's gonna be the worst experience in my life. I would rather that pervert over this handsome gentleman we have here," said the one and only love of his life. Issei couldn't take it anymore, and he did not have Drake to calm him down. He just started running and kept running away from the scene he had just witnessed. He then came to his senses and noticed he was at the park where all of this had started, and rivers were coming out from his eyes. So much anger built up in his body, and a sudden pain started to plague him. He kept clenching the area of his heart as it started to hurt him with an unbelievably amount of pain. Then he heard the voices of people approaching the area he was at. He then hid in a bush nearby to avoid being seen in such a pathetic state. After he jumped into the bush, the voices drew closer only to reveal the rest of the ORC girls. Suddenly Roswies then asks, "How were all of your boyfriends doing, girls?" "Asia, Chad is a real gentleman and a person who really protects me. I think I want to marry him. Irina. Yuryu is great. He is so amazing. Zenobia. I think I am in love with Luck. He is so chivalrous and treats me as the center of the world. I feel safe in his arms. Kaneko. Yuno is not a pervert and is special to me. Ravel. And here I thought I loved that good-for-nothing pervert. Becerra has been a blessing. How about you, Roswis? How is Abarai? Roswis, the love of my life. He is everything I need in a man. Unlike Issei. Speaking his name made the girls go crazy. Asia, I can't stand him anymore. Irina, he is no longer the friend I used to know. Zenobia, without the boosted gear he is nothing to me anymore. Kaneko, he is the enemy of women everywhere. Hearing those words come out of the mouths of the very people he risked life for was so much hurtful that his anger and pain started to rise, bringing a wave of unimaginable pain to Issei's body, and groaned in agony as he felt all the strength in him fade away. Then he fell unconscious. Issei's betrayal. Issei had fallen unconscious due to the pain that he felt from his whole body. Suddenly he has woken up to see himself still in the bush. Remembering what happened, he wished so strong that all he had witnessed was a lie and a dream, but the familiar ache of his heart was all the proof he needed. He then lifted his shirt expecting to see nothing since the pain felt emotional, but to his surprise there was a white hole right at the position of his heart. The mysterious thing was that it was swirling as if it was sucking things into his heart. Trying to stand up, he noticed that his strength was deteriorating and at a fast rate. He then stood up on his feet and started to walk to his home. When he arrived, he went straight to his bedroom to go and get some sleep to recover his strength. Suddenly Issei saw Rias coming up to him holding a sword and started chasing him. Suddenly she caught up to him, but as he was about to slash at him, he was now at a different place, seeing his very first girlfriend, Rainier. I told you you are worthless. The same thing that I killed you for is the same thing that made you fight battles you didn't have to and to suffer as you are now. She said, laughing crazily at him. At the end of the day, you are the pathetic and same worthless loser I killed those many months ago. Suddenly everything went black, then a flame rose and his buddy Drake came out. I am so relieved to be dead but sad at the same time. Happy because you were a disgrace to the Red Dragon Emperor name and you caused me so many problems. You were the weakest among all of my hosts, and because of you I'm sad because I can't fight my destined rival anymore. You ruined. He said, spitting at the boy. Suddenly he woke up realizing that it was all a dream, a bad nightmare. He closed his eyes and all he could see were the nightmares all night, so he ended up not sleeping at all. As the sun raised and hot on his faces and open eyes, he then woke up to prepare for school. He took a bath as usual and wore his classic red shirt and Kuo Academy uniform. Making his way downstairs, he then went to the fridge and prepared himself breakfast and a lunchbox for school. While doing so, the girls then made their way to the kitchen. Issei was heartbroken, but he could not deny the fact that he still loved the girls. Upon seeing them, thoughts of their good times started to flash through his mind, and all of a sudden the pain from the previous night started to get worse. Trying to avoid a scene, he then grabbed his lunch and left for school whilst trying to hide the pain that he was feeling. He arrived at school. Everyone could clearly see that the boy was tired and that something was bothering. During the day, Issei was caught glancing out the window or dozing off only to wake up screaming due to the things he saw in the dream world of his. Everyone was laughing and started spreading rumors that the boy was crazy. All his ORC friends who were in the same class as him, which was 3A, were embarrassed by his display. During the club meeting, everyone had arrived and seemed to have voted on something while Issei hadn't arrived. The decision was so important that Evan Rias and Aquino showed up to this meeting. Upon entering the room, Issei felt the tension in the room. Everyone was looking at him, Kiba and Gasper with a sad face and the girls with a neutral expression. Issei, welcome to your last meeting. Upon hearing the word last, he was deadpanned. Issei, we heard about your display in class, and to be honest, it's ruining the club's image. This used to be prestigious, but because of you perverseness and your stunts, you are dragging this club's name in the mud. So because of that, most of us have decided to kick you out of the Occult Research Club, said Rias, looking at him blankly. Issei, understanding the situation, just turned around to leave. Just as he was outside, he saw the other male compatriots of the ORC running to catch up to him. Issei, sorry, but I did not want this. I just arrived in the room to see the girls conducting their meeting, and because of majority and me bong Rias night I couldn't do anything. Kiba said, holding his best friend. Brother, I am sorry. If I could anything I would do it. Gasper said, looking down. Issei then pat his head and Kiba's shoulder. They looked at him to see him wear a fake smile. Don't worry about me, I will be fine, he said, continuing to walk, going home. The pain he felt in the morning had come back, and thus times stronger than ever. Reaching his house, he then went to his bed to sleep. That night he had the same nightmare, and the day after he didn't go to school. He didn't eat anything that day. For the next week he never slept, having nightmares. Then those nightmares started to turn night terrors and delusions where he could see things attacking him while he was awake the whole night. 1 week later, due to not eating, lack of sleep, and continuous brain trauma, Issei was as skinny as bones. On his way to school, people would look at the boy with pity, and some mocked him seeing him in such a state. Some of the kendo girls were feeling pity for him. Everyone was worried about him. Even the teachers, but because of his past, everyone avoided helping him, thinking it was karma. As of right now, he was just arriving home, and the pain he was feeling was now horrid. Every night the swirling hole on his Issei would hurt and Issei the life and strength out of him, causing an unbelievable amount of pain. He had asked Rias to ask Surzex if he could help him, but Rias would never allow him to finish what he was saying. He tried reaching Michael, but he was busy with the repairs of heaven to attend to the boy. Right now he was calling his last hope. Someone who was more like a father figure to Issei, Azazel. Azazel, hello, you have reached my voicemail. Please leave a message after the beat. Issei, sensei, I need your help like right now. Everything is going wrong. Please come as soon as you receive this message. Issei recorded this message, struggling as much as he can in a voice that sounded so desperate. After a few more hours he tried again. Issei, sensei, please, I can't take this anymore. This is too much for me. I'm feeling as if I am going to die. Issei then struggled through the night to at least feel slightly better and make it to the next day. He made it till morning. By now every breath it took was so painful it felt like he was being stabbed 1,000 times. Doing as he did all this time, he went to the kitchen and ate some makeshift breakfast since the girls had left without preparing food for him. He went and sat in his bed trying to sleep, since it had been ages since he had slept. Every time he closed his eyes he would always be scared awake and felt the pain start over. Feeling the pain start again, he decided to call Azazel and maybe say his goodbyes, since now he was sure he wasn't going to make it. Issei, sensei, this may be the very last message from me. I feel as if this is the end for me, and I wanted to say goodbye at the least. Please tell Surzex Naisama and Grafia Misama that I fought till my very end. I wish I could spend more time with you, but there is an end for everything. Issei sat there with despair in his eyes and the look of someone who has given up and lost all in life. He was about to take a nap, knowing that if he slept now he would never wake up again. As he was about to close his eye, "Oi, what are you doing, partner? His death, what are you doing, partner? Are you giving up? Because that's not what my partner would do." Issei heard the familiar voice he had missed in his head. It was Draig's, but how could he be sure it was really his and not his delusions? "Oi, are you doubting me, partner? I am really here, and to prove that is why I'm telling you not give. My partner would fight till his last breath, not give up when all hope is lost." Draig said to his partner. Issei was happy to see that not everyone had abandoned him. He was so glad to have his right-hand man back and co-pilot seat, giving him the support he needed. But how? Was the only thing he could mutter in pure bliss and shock. When the gauntlet was destroyed, the past hosts used all the power they had left to push my soul out of the gear and onto your body, was all he could say. Issei was beyond a doubt happy. "It's good to have you back, but I don't think we will last long. Do you know the cause of that hole?" Issei said in a weak voice. "Your evil pieces were linked to your soul, but when I jumped in your body there were now 2 souls confusing the evil pieces, but due to your strength you could hold it off until what happened to you that day. It corrupted the pieces, and instead of giving you power they started to do the opposite." Draig explained to the best of his efforts. "So, is there anything we can do to avoid death that awaits us?" the boy asked in a grim voice. "The only thing I can think of is to just move the pieces out of your body," Draig said. "But the chances of survival are slim, thus both cases are a lose-lose situation." "So how do we remove them?" Issei asked again. As of right now you are a dragon/devil hybrid, so if we remove the pieces you should live for a little while the devil part turns back to a human, so we can first turn that part in a dragon making you full dragon but leaving in a weak state, then we can further change you into a dragon slayer strengthening you further. But I won't lie to you, the risk itself would be high. So if we start now, how long would it take? He asked again. A day and some hours to fully finish, Drake said, assuring his host. Well, since I have nothing to lose, I would like for you to start immediately. Also, will your pour come back? He said, talking to his partner. Okay, I will start the preparations, and as for my power, I fear it is gone for good. The fear was made to bring out the power, without it no power, so right now I'm just a passenger soul in your body. Is that so? Issei then blacked out and fell to the ground. I hope you come out of this alive, partner, Drake said, talking to himself. One day later, Issei was still out, but the first half of his transition had been complete and was now a full dragon, and his body let out a very strong white aura. All the dragons alive in the universe felt the aura and all seemed to say one thing: a dragon has been born. All the other supernaturals were confused. The aura was strong, but it felt different. So they didn't know to feel fear or relax, because the aura then disappeared as if it never existed before. A few hours later, all the leaders of the supernatural factions had finished a meeting about hosting the Raiding Game World Tournament. They had all felt the aura, but since it was considerably weak, they didn't concern themselves on it. As Azazel was arriving home to his lab, he was taken by surprise to an alarm in his house. This alarm was a specific alarm that he had installed to warn if something wrong was going on in the Hyadu residence. Without wasting a single moment, he had already made a transportation circle to go to the house of his adoptive son. Upon arrival, he then checked the house monitoring system to see that the problem had occurred in the basement. He couldn't feel the presence of anyone in the house but felt a malicious aura similar to Issei's in the basement. Today was a Saturday, so where were the girls and why was Issei alone? He couldn't stop thinking, so fast, worried about. He was afraid that he was in danger because due to losing Drake he had become considerably weak and he had made lots of enemies. As the elevator reached the training room, he was surprised to see the state it was in. The other half of it was destroyed by what seemed to be an explosion, and he could not see Issei, but he could feel his presence close. Then he saw what was giving of Issei's presence and was grief-stricken. There on the ground was Issei's pawn pieces with BLD and bits of flesh on them. Then he bent down to touch them. Upon contact, he could feel some of his strength being drained into them and quickly withdrew his hand. Carefully he picked all of them and put them in a case and made a magic circle and disappeared into it. He then appeared directly in the meeting room of the four Mao, and all of them were a little diseased and startled. Azazel, what are you doing here? Asked the leader of the four. Without a word, Azazel threw the case on the table and the pawn pieces were scattered everywhere. Ajuka, I need you to tell me what happened, he said coldly. Everyone was surprised but Surzex and Grafia more. They knew quite well who they belonged to but didn't want to believe it. What happened, Azazel? Asked Surzex in a cold voice. After the meeting I arrived home to hear the Hyadu residence alarm ringing and I went there immediately. As I arrived I felt no one but Issei's presence, so I went to the place where I felt it. When I got to the training room I saw the other side of it destroyed by what seemed to be a massive explosion, and there I saw Issei's pawn pieces and came over immediately, he said, grasping his fist angrily. Just then Michael and Gabriel then teleported in that very same room. It seems they had important news until they felt Issei's presence coming of the pawns on the table. It was like they had seen a ghost. As if about to collapse, they rushed to sit on the chairs before they fainted. Azazel opened his mail to see 3 messages from Issei. They played all of them, and by the time they reached the last they were feeling guilty of being too busy. If maybe they had just spared time to check on him, maybe he would have been fine. Ajuka then explained what had happened to the pieces and told them with a sad voice that chances of survival were very slim. Everyone was hurt, but Azazel, Grafia and Surzex were THD most affected. At the ORC clubroom the girls had invited all of their boyfriends to the club. They were told about the supernatural world since most of them were sacred gear possessors and one was a mage. Kiba had now finished explaining to them of the top-tier sacred gears. I can't believe Hyadu had that much power. To think he was such a loser and he was a boy who had defeated such strong enemies, said one boy with the rest nodding in agreement. Suddenly a magic circle appeared and out came Surzex. The rest of the devils bowed whilst the newcomers were puzzled. "Welcome Lucifersima/Aniissima," said everyone whistled. The boys were surprised to hear who was in front of them. He motioned everyone to stop what they doing. "So why did you come here for Aniissima?" Rias asked. Taking a deep breath, he then placed the case onto Rias' desk. Rias, a bit puzzled, opened the case only to drop to her knees. "I am here to inform you that Issei Hayadu is dead," he said, turning back and making a magic circle to leave. All the girls were shocked at first, then tears burst out crying. They were all heartbroken that their sweet hero had died. The man they loved had died. At first these boyfriends were just to feel what it's like to be with someone before they got married, but feelings started to bloom between them, but it didn't mean they didn't love Issei. They treasured him. The boyfriends then hugged the girls to console them. "We are going to protect you," one of them said, only making the girls feel worse because it made them think of one person, Issei. "For you. Remind me why you are going back there." "To make a statement. I need the world to know that I am back. Plus I need to get my life back, my friends and family back, and find my purpose in life." "What about your parents' partner? What are you going to do about them?" "You said Trihexa told you something before she died. She said you will never find out about the boy's past, his origin, about his parents. That's what she told me as she was bargaining for her life. Again, I am sorry I forgot to tell. My memory was a little fuzzy after coming back. I guess we are going to have to find out who my parents are." Finally we are home. We see Issei landing on a cliff, looking down to see the lights from the Kuo community shining through night sky, showing its livelihood. "Let's have a look and see if things have changed, shall we?" Issei jumped up in the air, releasing his mechanical wings, and soared through the sky so fast. Issei then landed in alley near the edge of town with his wings retracting and disappearing as if they never existed. "Wow, this place looks amazing. Doesn't look like there was a war here. Devils are remarkable. How is it they could such repairs in such a short time? Look at this drag. They even built new buildings and new business. It is astounding. Let's just take a walk and enjoy this appealing moon. It's speaking to me. It's as if it and I are one." 2 hours later, "I still can't believe that this the same Kuo from 6 months ago," Issei said, taking a sit-on bench in his favorite spot on Kuo, the place where it all began. As Issei was relaxing on the bench enjoying the evening sky when he suddenly flinched. "Issei, did you feel that just now? Someone is forcefully trying to enter Kuo, and these people seems to be extremely powerful. Let's just chill. Maybe the Alliance has already taken note and has sent someone to deal with these people." Just then a magical circle appeared right before Issei. Out of it came 5 individuals that reeked of strength. Their mere aura was lighting the darkness surrounding the park. "Is this place Rekka?" "Yes, Atiko, this is where the barrier surrounding Kuo is set up from. If we can destroy the source, then the army can march in and conquer this place from the Alliance. What I don't get is why do they want this place? This place is the base for the Alliance. This is where the little sisters of the Maos live. On top of that, this is where the Grigori's princes learn. Therefore this is where to target if we really want to make a statement to the Alliance." "Haha, wait, so you idiots want to attack Kuo for that?" The 5 individuals turned there to see Issei sitting on the bench laughing his butt off. "Itiko, I told you to find if this place was occupied by any living soul. I did, Rekka. I didn't sense anyone. In fact, we all didn't sense him when we arrived. You see, I can't let you guys destroy this place. It has sentimental value to me, plus this where my friends and family live. So as a warning, please leave before you become the first to fall to my overwhelming might." "Ha! Are you crazy, young boy? I can't sense a shred of aura from you. Compared to us, you are a mere ant, and we will squash you where you stand." Issei stood up and his face went blank. He tilted his head and a black aura started to leak from his bandages. "I will ask you again to leave before I destroy you. Listen here, kid, get out of here before we kill you. Your insolence is what killed you. Drag, if I use my techniques, are you positive no one will feel my presence? Partner, I am very sure, after all, stealth is what it was created for. It's quite surprising how you mastered them so quickly. I believe this would be a good place to test your ability." Just then Issei's black aura exploded, lashing out. It then started to circle around him, and in mere moments Issei stood before them clad in black dragon armor head to toe. It was similar to his balance breaker's scale mail. He detached his tail and it turned itself into a sword. You reign in the shadows of the moonlit night. Divine Assassin, the 5 individuals were beyond speechless. The boy had released a powerful attack, yet they could barely feel a shred of aura from him. After all that, and you are still weaker than us, aren't you disappointed? Can't you hear me? Answer me, you brat. I am sorry, but my partner can't answer anyone at the moment. He has erratic behavior. When he is about to kill, he becomes emotionless and silent. Remember that you brought this onto yourself. Issei then disappeared, and one of the individuals had been struck down. He had been sliced in half, and none of them had felt him move or seen him. The remaining 4 released their wings. They leaped into the air trying to get away from him. Issei was surprised to see 2 of them with angel wings, one with fallen angel wings, and the last was a devil. Issei's aura started to gather on his shoulders only to form 2 cannons. They started to buzz, charging by sucking all the aura Issei was releasing. The cannons started to fire rapidly in the air, trying to shoot the 4 out of the sky. At the rate the cannons were firing, none of the 4 could dodge, and all were struck down. As the individuals were standing to finish fighting, Issei felt 17 auras approaching. Out of the 17, 9 were very familiar to him. I really wanted to enjoy this fight, but since they came here sooner, I guess I have to finish you right here and now. Issei said, holding his sword. Infinite Slasher. And in mere seconds all of the individuals had been decapitated and their bodies lay there lifeless. Issei then released his armor. Draig, I think it's time to get out of here. Sure. Issei then ran out of the park to land on tall building outside of the park. He looked behind him to see the people he used to call his comrades arrive at the scene. Issei returned to walking around the town. Hey Drag, where do dragons like to live? In caves. Okay. Issei then made a teleportation circle that led him to a mountain range that was in Kuo. He appeared right before the opening of a deep cave. This is where we will be staying. He entered the cave and started doing another spell. After he was done, a bright flash exploded and a mansion was now part of the cave. It's still amazing how much my magic has improved. That it is, especially your ability for seals and stealth spells. Thank you, Drake. Now let's get settled in. The Raiding Game World Tournament 6 months after Issei's death. Oh God, I had missed Kuo's fresh air, says a tall, muscular, white-haired figure walking through the gates of Kuo Academy. Everyone was looking at him. Some of the onlookers were looking at the handsome face. Some people were wondering why the boy had bandages on all 4 limbs with uniform on top and not wearing any shoes. He had wild, scruffy, and untamed hair that complemented his heterochromatic eyes. The left one was emerald, whilst the right seemed to have no color because it was white all out with a black spot in it. He made his way to the student council. Arriving in front of the door, he then knocked so lightly that no normal human would hear it. Come in, the boy heard a female voice calling out to him. He then walked in so lightly it was like his feet weren't even touching the ground at all. So you must be the new student. How can I help you? Said the blue-haired girl, who Issei immediately recognized as Zenobia. In a very quiet voice he then said, I am here to take my class schedule. Zenobia then handed him a piece of paper stating his subjects and classroom. He then exited and started to head back to his old classroom. He walked slowly and as quiet as a church mouse, taking the atmosphere of the school he had missed so much. He made his way to his class and knocked again with little to no effort. Class, it seems we have a new student with us today. Please enter and state your name. After you can ask him 3 questions about himself, teacher said as Issei was walking in the room. Hello, my name is Issei Haidu. Let's be friends, he said with such a sweet smile that made everyone look at him as if he were a cute baby until the name rang into their heads. To say everyone was shocked would be an understatement. They all believed he had died in a fire at his house. His 2 friends Motohama and Matsuda stood up and walked up to him and said, Issei, is that you, old pal? How are you not dead? They had asked the main questions that the class wanted to know the answers to, especially Asia, Kiba, Saji, and Irina. Taking a breather, Issei started to stargaze during the middle of the day, making everyone think he truly was crazy, but then he opened his mouth. That's 2 questions down. Yes, it's me, Matsuda. As for how I am not dead, when the fire started I was burned all over and I was weak that I couldn't escape it. Man then came to my aid and rescued me and has been treating for the past 6 months. He said in a soft voice. Issei, why is your whole body bandaged? Asia asked, looking sad at Issei's body. Gulping, Issei then opened his mouth. By the time I had been rescued my body was burnt beyond return, so I am wearing these bandages to avoid disturbing you guys. He said, looking very somber. The girls were sad hearing the events that had occurred in his life. He then went to sit in his spot that was at the back of the class. When he sat down he put his head in between his hands and slept on his desk, but he could clearly feel himself being watched by his old comrades. By the end of the day news had spewed like wildfire of his return. Everyone wanted to know how he was doing, even the kendo girls. Rias and Aquino had heard about it and wanted to see it for themselves and talk to their beloved. When they saw a white-haired boy they presumed to be Issei talking to his old friends. Yes, the perverted trio is back in business. Come on Issei, we have found tons of places to peek from. The bald guy said, making everyone flinch at the thought of Issei going back to his habits. Instead Issei just stood up and said, after being near death, I got a second chance to live a better life and that is part of my past. Sorry, but I have somewhere to be right now. And he turned around and left the area without a trace. The Devils tries to track him, but it's like he had vanished. The Devils put it aside for later because right now they had to go to the start of the Rating Game World Tournament, so they went to their clubhouse to make a circle that made them appear in a stadium. They weren't the only ones in the arena, there were other teams that were going to participate in the tournament. Of course it wasn't everyone who was going to participate. Some of them didn't show up. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to the first ever Rating Game World Tournament hosted and organized by all of our leaders, the announcer called, making everyone cheer and shout out loud. So without further ado I am going to announce the starting teams and get right into the game, the announcer said, taking an envelope and opening out to scream out and making everyone look up in anticipation. I cannot believe this. The starting teams are the team of our very and amazing White Dragon Empress and her team against someone we all thought would never fought again. Our challenger is a man who has done the impossible, but I think this match is an obvious one. The next contestant is none other than the X-Red Dragon Emperor, Issei Hayudu alone. The announcer roared, making everyone in the stadium perplexed. Rias and her team were further surprised, but everyone in the VIP section was awestruck. They had thought their once proud champion had kicked the bucket, but here they were hearing his name. Same as everyone in the fans' seats. Vale, short for Valine, and her team were disappointed. They didn't care if Issei was alive. They wanted to start the tournament with someone strong only to get a shadow of someone who was once great. To them Issei was strong, but without the boosted gear he was weak and was easy pickings. Vale and her team were then transported to the dimensional space they were going to fight in. In an instant Issei had also reached that dimension. He was not wearing any clothes but was clad in bandages neck to toe. He then stepped forward, raising his hands as if he wanted to talk. Ladies and gentlemen, here to commentate with me is none other than Azazel, who has been a sense to Issei and a father to Valine. How do you think this battle is going to turn out? The announcer said. Thank you for having me here with you, Dave. Honestly, I am still wordless as to how Issei is still alive. But if I had to judge this battle, no offense Issei, I don't know where he was or what kind of training and tactics he has, I think he is not winning this match. I mean, I can barely feel any aura from here, and he is going against my girl and her team. He is going to lose. Azazel said, making Valley red from embarrassment, and Issei smile at his words. In the battle, what do you want, Hayudu? Are you to give up because you don't have a chance in hell? You are winning this. In fact, how are you still alive? Biko said, standing beside Valine. I am here for a proposition. I want to union with your leader. As you can see, I am one man, and if I fight all of you my chances of winning are slim, but if I fight your leader and by some luck overpower her, I will win instantly. If I win, you can join my team and continue in this tournament. Issei said in a joking manner. Valine then opened her mouth. What makes you think that you can beat me, and I thought you were dead, so how are you here? I said if I get lucky, didn't I? And if you want to know how I am alive so badly, how about at dinner? He replied jokingly again. Valley stood there silently as if she was thinking. I don't feel like fighting weak opponents. She said, turning around to leave. I don't tell the fearless white dragon empress is afraid of a boy without power. Issei said, taunting the battle maniac of a woman. Don't tell me you are running to your daddy for help. Maybe if I win here he would let me take you off his hands. After all, I don't see you ever getting married. He continued in a childlike teasing voice. Valley turned around and vanished, and cloud of dust rose from where Issei was standing. Now Valican, don't tell me you are angry from a little side chatter. Sneak attacks are very dangerous. Why don't we just play like the savage beasts we are? To fight like real dragons. Issei said with his face getting extremely serious, dropping the childish act. He had dodged a surprise attack from Valley. It made people gasp for a moment and think of it as just a lucky chance. Valley then activated her balance breaker, adorning herself in the familiar white draconic armor. If anyone interferes my fight, I will kill them, she said, looking at her teammates. A fierce battle started between the two. Valley kept throwing punches, kick and dragon shots mixed with demonic shots, but to everyone in Valley's surprise he was dodging with a bit of ease. This made her even more angry. She started increasing her power and aura to land a hit on Issei. Valley, I know without the boosted gear I'm weak, but don't be mistaken to think that I am weak enough to be defeated with your balance breaker alone, Issei said more seriously than he had ever been that whole day. Valley, taking his words, started her chant, and in a flash she was now in her juggernaut drive, and the sheer amount of its aura was a raging river. It blew away everything in its path. She then sped up to Issei, who couldn't dodge, and fed him an uppercut. For the first, everyone saw Issei tumbling down. She continued with her attack and gave him a barrage of punches, pushing him further back. Valley, fed up with fighting Issei, wanted to finish him in a flash and started to power up her dragon shot. She released the large torrent of energy towards Issei. It closed in on its target and exploded on impact. Is this the end of the battle? The announcer asked expectantly, but was surprised to hear no one had retired. There in the middle of the explosion zone was a large cocoon made of bandage lime material. Issei was inside it, but since he didn't release any aura, no one could tell what's going on. Inside the cocoon, boy, can you get serious for once? If you keep stalling, it will cause you to lose, and we don't want that, do we? Stop playing with your opponent, Drake said in Issei's mind. Okay partner, I will start fighting, Issei replying Drake in his mind. Suddenly the cocoon opened to release an unharmed Issei. He started laughing, causing everyone to doubt his sanity. You know, for a moment there I thought I was going to die. You see, an old friend told me to stop playing and fight, so here I come, he said after he stopped laughing and getting his stern look back on. As he said that, the bandages on his limbs started to untie themselves as if they had minds of their own. The bandages then tied themselves on his and their Issei was with 2 white gauntlets and 2 white boots that looked like those of a dragon's feet, all made of a metal-like substance. A metallic mask started to grow on his face, covering only his mouth and nose, only leaving his now emerald eyes. A tail then came down from his back to whack the ground, making a clean cut showing the strength it held within. Then and there he started to release a strong white aura that screamed with power. Rise from the infinite depths. Moon Piercer. After his transformation, his aura started to skyrocket from 0 to catch up with Vala's aura at a really fast pace. When dragons become people like me and have mastered their aura, this is what happens. Of course, unlike you who has multiple forms, I only have one, he said calmly. Everyone was stiff at the amount of aura rolling of the boy. Most of the leaders felt the similarity to that they had felt 6 months ago, but much stronger. Vala had gotten back to her sense and was actually having fun. Finally, she was fighting strong as she was. Issei started to raise his aura as if taunting Vala. Vala started raising her own, fighting for Demps. With the VIPs, what are they doing? Asked Surzex, puzzled as to why they are raising their aura so high. This is how dragons fight first, with their aura, fighting for Demps to make the weaker one submit. If neither submits, it turns into a battle full of violence. A purple dragon said, Tanin, answering Surzex. Back at the fight, whilst fighting for Demps with their aura, Issei suddenly vanished, and so does his large aura. Vala was confused. Suddenly Vala was knocked to the side by a right kick on Vala's side. Whilst Vala was tumbling down, Issei vanished and was on the receiving end, giving Valley another kick on her left side. He picked her up and threw her in the air, then followed her, showering her with a barrage of punches, making her land on the ground with a shattered armor. Issei had expected this, then suddenly his iris both turned white, leaving only a black pupil, whilst his sub-body armor turned black, and he detached his tail, making it fall of stabbing the ground. Suddenly he grabbed the tail with his hands and rubbed it using his palms, making razor-sharp tooth-like pieces of metal pop out of the sides of the tail, making it into a sword. Vanishing again as if he didn't exist, he started to head for Valley. Infinite Slasher. Issei had called out the name of his move, and he started to slash Valley all over from all directions with an unbelievable speed. Everyone could see the cuts but could not see the cause of it. Moon-piercing Fong Issei then stopped right above a tranced Valley, and suddenly his face plate opened up to reveal his sharp fangs. Energy started to gather on each of the sharp canine and gathered in the middle to form a ball of blue energy, and he released all of the built-up energy and it swallowed up Valley whole. A loud explosion soon followed, leaving the girl lying unconscious wearing tart clothes. Suddenly a light shone from her, symbolizing that she had retired and was unable to battle. Everyone was surprised to their very core. The terrace full of fans was silent. This boy had done the impossible again. I can't believe it, folks. It seems our X-Red Dragon Emperor has become an underdog. With all odds against him, Issei Hayadu is the winner of this match. What do you think, Azazel? Today's game has been concluded, so please everyone go to the Gremory Hotel for the after-party. The announcer said. To say I am shocked would be an understatement. It seems Issei had a few aces under his sleeve. Azazel said, trying to make sense of the scene. Callie had been transported to the infirmary and her team teleported there to see how she was doing. Issei then teleported to an exit, and as he was about to exit he was met with 3 angry faces. The truth, Issei was exiting the arena when he was met with 3 angry faces. An angry Surzex, Graphia, and an angry Azazel. His sweat dropped, feeling a massive killing intent. He then turned around and started to run away, yelling, I can explain it all, don't kill me. A little later we see Issei in a private office of the hotel with Surzex, Graphia, Azazel, Michael and Gabriel all sitting down ready to hear his story. We would like to know from the beginning what happened, and please don't lie. Issei took in a deep breath. It goes like this. It had been a month after the defeat of Trihexa and my time to that overgrown lizard drake. At first I thought that the girls were giving me space to mourn. So I went back to school and spent the day as usual. After lessons I went to the club room to do my contracts, and they all acted as if I didn't exist except for Kiba and Gasper. I did my contracts and came back to the club room. After the days we were leaving to go home, and I noticed that it was just Ne and Kiba going home, so I decided to go back and see what was going on. I saw Rias and Aquino going to their class and I followed them. I waited for them to exit, but they didn't seem to exit, so I peeked in and saw them naked with a man between them. They had slept with him and ridiculed me in front of him. I was so heartbroken, so I ran away to a park. While I was there I heard voices coming and I hid in a bush, but turns out it was the rest of the ORC girls. It seemed that they too had boyfriends of their own. What hurt was not that they had boyfriends, because maybe they just didn't love any anymore, or they found the one for them and I couldn't force them. What hurt me was all the terrible things that they said about of me, as if was the worst thing to ever exist after all I had done for them, and seeing my own fiancée, the woman I loved like there was no tomorrow, cheated on me and said being engaged to me was the worst thing ever. So it turned out that when the gear was destroyed, Drake didn't go with it. He had been moved into my body but was weak to reach me. The evil pieces bonded with my soul, but the fact they were 2 souls in the body caused an error, and due to the girls' words they became corrupt and started to take my life force. They caused me to lose sleep and have nightmares and night terrors, and every time I dreamt about the girls or Drake it would cause the pieces to react and kill me even more. I tried calling all of you guys but you were all busy. I asked Rias to reach Surzex but would cut me off before I finished my request. A week later I was sure that I was by death's door, and Drake woke up and reached out to me giving me a solution. He told me to remove the evil pieces, then turn to full dragon, then dragon slayer to enhance my body and ensure my survival. Upon waking up one day and hours later I released an attack that blew up the training room and left to train for 6 months and have some peace and change of character. Now here we are today. Issei said with a blank expression as if he had not experienced any of it. I don't blame any of you for what happened, and that is why I came back here, he said lastly. Everyone had tears in their eyes after hearing his story. Surzex finally opened his mouth. Issei, for what my sister and her friends put you through. If there is anything I can do, just name it. It's okay, Surzex. Let bygones be bygones, but I will hold you up for that favor in case I need it, he said, filing at the group. Azazel, trying to lighten the room, then changed the topic. Issei, my boy, how do your powers work? Is it some sort of sacred gear? He asked with a very cheerful face on, making everyone laugh. I am a dragon that turned dragon slayer. My essence, or the thing that classified me as a dragon, was kept with Draig while undergoing the transition. My scales are the very thing that were used to rebuild my bones. After the change, Draig then released my essence to merge with my soul, which meant I was still a dragon. I am a guy used to fighting in hand-to-hand wearing armor, and my balance breaker was just my body's aura shaping itself into armor, so I mastered it, and so the color of the armor is denoted by which power I am using. White is for Draconic and black for Dragon Slayer, he said, trying to explain it as best as he understood from what Draig had told him. What about those bandages? Asked everyone, interested in knowing what made them special. Issei looked up as if thinking, then opened his mouth. My Dragon Slayer specialty is speed and stealth. The bandages are just a physical representation of my power. If the bandages cover me, then it conceals all of my aura as if it is non-existent and increases my speed. It's like I wear my power, and it also stops my aura for damaging the surrounding areas. That's it, right, Draig? He suddenly asked his partner. Suddenly a scale like metal with a jewel on top materialized itself on Issei's lower neck and spoke. That's what I think, partner. I don't have a manual to these things, he said, startling everyone. Surprised I am not dead. The conversation continued for 10 minutes until we see all the leader and Issei leave the room to go to the party. At the party, Issei walked in and everyone stopped what they were doing and started to applaud. Only one table wasn't, and it was the one that belonged to Vale and her team. Issei couldn't explain it, but ever since the showdown and clash of their aura, he saw Vale in a new light. He could now notice her majestic beauty that could rival even Yasaka herself. Slowly he walked towards the table until he arrived, only to receive killing glares from each one of the members. Is this seat taken? He asked, talking back casually as he took out the seat and sat with the team. Normal people wait for the answer before they seat. Why are you even here? Do you want to gloat in our faces due to our loss? Asked a pissed Biko. Vala wasn't even looking directly at him. As Issei was about to speak, then the last people he would have wanted to see came at the table, making the scene intensify. Ise, Iskun, Isasen, Ise, Isa-senpai, Issei-san, Ise, Issei Nisaman, Rias, Aquino, Asia, Irina, Zenobia, Kaneko, Ravel, Roswies, Kiba and Gasper all came to see him at the table. Issei then turned around with a blank face. Kiba, my friend, how have things been going? And for you too, my little brother Gasper, he said, patting Gasper's head. Rias then stood forward. Issei, aren't you going to greet you MSTR and fiancé? Do you know how much I suffered thinking you were dead? How much we all suffered from your loss? You should have told us you were alive, she said, screaming and crying, causing a commotion. Kiba and Gasper, I am sorry for making you go through all of that because of my lie. It's just I wanted to get some peace and move on, he said, looking sad at his brothers by everything but BLD. Everyone from Vala's table had understood the situation and didn't want to interfere. Rias was getting angry from acting as if she and the girls didn't exist. Issei, as your emissary, I order you to get back to me and join my team for the Rating Game World Tournament. This struck Issei's near nerve and looked at them with a killing intent. Rias, you are no more my emissary, and proof of that are the pawn pieces I gave back to you. I want nothing to do with you and the rest of you girls. In fact, I am breaking our engagement. Rias, you are now a free woman, do as you please. Upon hearing this, Rias started to cry, and so did the rest of the girls. Issei, please don't do this to me and them. Can't you see that we all love you? We were broken when we heard about your death. We love you, Issei. Don't do this to us. Rias cried out, causing a further scene. I shouldn't do this to you. What about what you all did to me? Did you love me then when you ridiculed me and spoke badly about me behind my back? When you all broke my heart and when you threw me out of ORC because of a problem you had caused and didn't even bother to help me with? You saw me every day in pain but you did nothing but stand by and watch. Saying that besides being the Red Dragon Emperor I was an utter pathetic and useless failure in life. And what stung the most was hearing my own fiancé say that being married to me would be the worst thing to happen. Please leave me alone, he said sitting back down. Every time he tried talking with the Vala team, Rias would interrupt with her crying, annoying him further. Vala never wanted to admit it, but she really liked Issei. Ever since their first clash of power at the peace conference, but due to them being rivals, Vala didn't want to get close to him, fearing that one day they were destined to fight each other to the death. She had managed to convince herself that it was nothing and she didn't like Issei at all, but thanks to the clash of auras in their battle and Issei beating her, all those feelings came out like a raging river, and seeing Rias pester him like that was starting to piss her off. Without even thinking, Vala stood up and went to stand in front of the red-haired. Please stop disturbing conversations concerning powerful people. Know your place, you brat. So Issei, you are leaving us for this white-haired bimbo. Don't bother lying about us breaking your heart, you want to be with her. I bet even that whole fight was staged. Why else would you be sitting here? Rias said, making rumors start spreading in the room, and everyone started to speak badly about Vala. Issei's anger was on its breaking point until a bright red light flashed on Issei's back. The scale with a jewel on it had materialized itself and a voice came out. Little sister of the current Lucifer, I suggest you leave here before my partner goes berserk and starts a rampage, ending your life first. Draig said, warning Rias and her peerage. Surzex arrived to see what the commotion was all about and saw Rias standing off against Vala and Issei standing up with his white hair covering his eyes and Draig out, and he already knew what was going on. Rias and the rest of you girls, let's go somewhere to talk, he said, releasing some of his aura to make them understand how serious he was. Issei started to calm down and looked up to Surzex. Thank you, he said. Rias, the girls and Surzex left to go talk in private. The other guests continued gossiping and started to say Vala had stolen Issei and stuff like the battle was staged. Vala heard all of it but didn't care, and so did her team, but when Issei heard it he stood up. All of the guests suddenly felt the very cold and strong aura that Issei was releasing at the battle and looked at him to see the bandage on his right hand untie itself, releasing a hand with flawless white pale skin that looked as white as the moon. He then raised his hand and bringing it back down in a swiping motion, releasing a blast of blue energy, breaking a wall and cutting the ground cleanly, leaving no remain of rubble or debris. It was similar to the power of destruction, but it was wild and colder. If there is anyone who has anything to say to Vala, come say it to my face, his tone very serious and cold that made chills run up the people's spines. Everyone was silent and nobody stood forward. Ha ha. Phew, thank God nobody came. I would be in big trouble if anyone did, he said, laughing, making everyone laugh. Right boy, don't make empty threats or you will cry, Draig said, replying Issei. Draig, why did I just defend Vala in front of everyone? And why does she look attractive all of a sudden? Issei asked mentally. Those are your draconic instincts. Ever since the class of auras your instinct has been in overdrive because us dragons like strong mates, and her challenging you is causing your instinct to kick in. You want her to be your mate deep down. Aren't you bothered with her being the host of your rival? No, not at all. I lost my power, so there is no need for rivalry anymore. Also, if it means giving up my rivalry for your happiness, then it's a small price to pay. You know I don't care about that, and I could have done that by myself, right? Aw, trying to be tough. Well, it's the least I can do. After all, this was all because of me. Now let's get down to business, shall we? I want you guys to join my team and continue in the Rating Game World Tournament. Why would I join you of all people? You humiliated me and you are still possessing Draig, making you my rival. You are the strongest guys I know, and I don't know if you noticed, but I have no team. Also, Draig lost all of his power, merely making him a passenger in my body. You managed to take me out, so I would say you don't need anyone. Let me tell you a secret, winning was not something I expected, but when I heard I had paired up with you, I then fabricated a plan to defeat you. First I was supposed to rile you up to attack me alone, then attack you using my dragon-slaying attacks, sheathed with my draconic aura, making it impossible for you to notice. I didn't want to use too much of my power. It is still unstable. So I entered the tournament for training purposes, but now I want to win and you guys can fight the strong guys you wanted. Brief silence struck the table. Don't you guys want to go on, especially after being beaten by such a dirty trick? Prove yourself and continue with your reason to enter the tournament. Fine, we will join you, but on the condition that you do what we say and I get to spar with you at your maximum level of strength. The first one I can do, but the second is out of the question. I can't use my maximum power yet, but when I can, you will be the first person I call. The table lightened up and ended up laughing and sharing jokes together. Kuroka, being the naughty cat she was, knew about Vala's feelings for Issei, and right here and now was an opportunity served on a silver platter. Hurriedly, she dragged the rest of the Team Vala members away from the table, leaving Issei and Vali alone, and had made the waiters serve wine and alcohol after every 10 minutes. Vali, realizing that she was alone with Issei, made her cheeks so red a tomato would be pale in comparison. So what happened between you and your fiancé? Vali asked whilst taking a sip of her wine. That's nothing important, it was just something that made me re-evaluate my life, he responded, looking down. But you said you'd tell at dinner, and we are at dinner, she said, pouting, making Issei wonder if it really was Vali. Are you sure you want to listen to such a sad story? He asked, making sure she wanted to know about it, which she lightly nodded her head, showing her interest. Well, it goes like this. Issei started telling her the story of his past 7 months since the loss of Drake. When he finished, Vali only had said eyes and slowly opened her mouth. "I going to kill those beaches," she said, whilst Issei was now gazing in her eyes as if stuck in a trance. The waiter then brought more wine up until both of them were drunk and were now presumably the only ones left in the hall. Vali was too drunk to walk on her own, so Issei then carried her bridal style and in an instant teleported her to his house deep in the forest, seemingly built inside a cave. Upon emerging in his domain, a strong barrier that completely hid the presence from the rest of the world rose up, covering every inch of his house. He then went upstairs, taking her into the most comfortable and appealing room in the house, his bedroom, and lay her on his bed. He snapped his finger as a magic circle adorned Callie, and she was dressed in a white shirt and shorts so she could feel comfortable while she slept. He then tucked her in bed, and as he turned around to leave, he was suddenly pulled back by Vali, making him fall on top of her. Out of nowhere, he felt something tender smash onto his lips. Vali was kissing him. He didn't try pulling back and started to embrace back, slowly turning into a passionate moment as if the world had stood still. Thanks to the wine and their primal instincts, they could not judge correctly. Stopping so as to catch their breaths, Vali started to remove her shirt and followed with her short remaining in her BR and underwear. Issei was captivated by beauty. The bandages started to untie themselves and all of them fell on the ground to see him in a black boxer. He was lighting up the dark room with his whitish aura with a little crimson in it. His aura was wild and untamed. It was so big it was slightly overwhelming for Vali, who was used to huge auras. Vali released her aura and instead of clashing, the auras started to intertwine. Issei and Vali then started to make out again and did what came naturally to them. Valley of Ko Academy. It's now dawn and the sun starts to rise. As long as light starts to flood Issei's MSTR bedroom through the huge glass wall facing the east. There we see 2 white-haired figures sleeping in the same bed in the blanket. Both were spooning, with the girl on the inside and the boy holding on tightly to the girl as if protecting her from the world. As the light started to torch Vali in her eyes, she started to wake up. She realized that she was not in her room and then felt someone holding onto her tightly, and they both were naked and there was a sticky substance in between her legs. Without a moment's hesitation, she turned around to see who was in bed with her, only to scream after seeing none other than Issei. Issei woke up in a defensive stance, looking around for signs of intruders, to see Vali, naked, and in the very same bed he had slept in. He then realized that he himself was also in his birthday suit. "Vali, why are you in my bed naked?" Vali then felt a pain on her neck and went to the nearby bathroom to see what it was on the mirror. She was deadpanned when she noticed. On her neck was a quarter-moon-shaped black tattoo and a bite mark encircling the tattoo. Shocked, she ran out of the bath and closed in on Issei and graced his cheek with a clean slap. What was that for? Issei asked, rubbing his cheek. This is what that was for, she said, pointing at her neck. What is that? Is that a tattoo? Nice tat. When did you get it? I don't remember, from yesterday. He said, reminding her of their time together. No, you idiot, it's a mark. Who gave you the permission to mark me? I didn't want this, she said, panicking. Suddenly her sacred gear wings popped out and Issei's scale materialized. Actually, Valley, you begged him to do after you bit him too, saying that you wanted to be his only one. Albion said, laughing. She was confused. Congrats to the newly wedded couple, Drake said, making Issei scream. What? You must be joking, right? There is no way me and Valley are married, he said, trying to catch a breath. Not joking, partner. In dragon culture, when you choose a mate and you bite her, a mark is formed telling people that she's already taken. Since she bit you too, it means that you are hers and only hers, so no harems. We tried to stop you, but you guys were too drunk on your instincts, you couldn't hear a word. The only good thing is that your draconic instincts chose your mates, thus they are the one for you, so it's not a match made in hell, he said. But I didn't want this. Oh no, Missy, you might have thought you didn't want this, but your instincts did it, which meant you wanted it deep down, Drake said, telling Valley. Valley, perplexed, just went and sat on Issei's bed. Issei then went to sit down next to her and opened his mouth. You know, ever since our clash in the battle, I started to think about you in a whole new light. For the first time, I actually saw your unrivaled beauty, and I just wanted to make you mine. No matter what your choice is, just know that I am here for you, he said while holding her hand. Suddenly she stood up and started to put on her clothes, which had been put on the kist at the end of the bed. Issei, this never happened. Don't tell anyone about this. I never planned on being with someone, so this is all too much to handle, she said as she finished dressing up and made a magic circle to get out of there to her own base. Whilst teleporting, Albion then broke her chain of thought. Vala, did you feel Issei's aura? As he said that, she started to recall how strong the aura felt. Yes, his aura was so strong, I remember at first it almost overwhelmed me. His aura alone tell me that he is as strong as Drake and I in our primes. He, right now, is a heavenly dragon. Just when Albion finished, she appeared in her base to see her teammates pacing up and down, worried about her. 1 week later on that week, Vala stated to feel really sick. Sometimes she had morning sickness, she would vomit, and sometimes nausea. Her appetite had grown and she had a craving for weird foods such as pickles dipped in ice cream. Everyone in her team was worried about her, but they clearly didn't understand what was going on with her. Right now she had just finished vomiting in the bathroom when a black-haired Nekashu appeared in the room with her. Valley had told Kuroka about the night at Issei and her being marked as his mate. It's not that she didn't trust the others, it was just that she needed some advice from someone who had experience in these matters. Kuroka, do you know what the heck is wrong with me? Can you use senjutsu to stop this sickness? Valley, you are not sick, and this is not something that can be healed with senjutsu? What? Then what is it? See, she asked, puzzled. Seriously, Valley, I don't know how you haven't figured it out yet. You had SEC with Issei, and now I can literally sense 2 auras in your body right now. But just to be sure here, she said, handing her a PRGNCY test. Valley was shaken at the thought of her being PRGNT. She never planned on being a mother, well, not this early. With trembling hands she took the test and went to the toilet and peed on it. Shihen went to stand beside Kuroka. After 2 minutes a positive sign appeared on the test and Valley dropped it. She was finished. Everything was now blank. She didn't know what to do or how to get out of this. No, she said as she started crying. I can't be PRGNT. I can't be. What am I going to do? She cried and was pulled in for a hug by Kuroka. She soothed her down by patting her back. Everything is gonna be fine. You will pull through this. After all, you got me, the team, your parents, and Issei did say he will be with you always. But first you must tell the team, then your parents, and tell Issei. They left the bathroom and gathered the team and told them about the PRGNCY and Issei being the father. Immediately everyone hugged and started to scream in joy and start talking of baby names. Then she opened a portal to the underworld, the Grigori, where her parents lived. A/N. Vala's parents are Azazel and her biological mother. Azazel helped Vala find her mother and ended up getting married to her. Also in this novel, Azazel is the leader of the fallen angels. Valley appeared in front of the castle where her parents stayed. The guards on the outside immediately kneeled. "Welcome our princess," they said in unison. She started to walk, heading inside to the main chamber where her mother would be. Surprisingly, she then saw her dad there too. Her parents, on seeing their daughter here to see them. "Hello Mom and Dad, I have something to tell you in private." This piqued the interests of her parents as worry started to show on their faces. The whole family then went into a private lounge to talk without any prying ears. Making herself comfortable, Valley then took in a deep breath and opened her mouth. "Mom and Dad, I am T," she said calmly. Immediately her mother hugged her. Azazel, on the other hand, looked at her. "Who is the father?" he asked. "He didn't even ask for your hand or even come to meet me." "Dad, don't be mad. It's Issei," she said. The last part was said in a very low voice. "I am going to kill him." "He did not even man up to come face me," he said in a low voice. "Dad, it happened by accident. We were both drunk and our draconic instincts kicked in. Plus I haven't told him yet. I am going to do it today," she said, looking down. "Do that and tell him I want to see him tomorrow," he said, walking up to go to his lab to vent out his anger. Valley then teleported back to her home. Upon arrival, she took her phone and went to Issei's DM. "Valley. Issei, can we meet up? I want to talk." "Issei, sure. Name the place and time." "Valley, the cliff near your house in 2 hours. Alone." Valley then went to prepare to talk with her supposed husband. At the cliff after 2 hours. We see Valley appearing at the cliff to see Issei already waiting for her. Issei, noticing the auras, then stood up in fighting stance. "I thought you said alone," he said, making her puzzled. "Are you planning to ambush me with the other person you came here with?" "No, Issei," she shouted and ran, punching him. "The reason I am here is to tell you about this aura." "I don't understand," he said, rubbing his cheek. "That's exactly why. You knocked me up. I am Jin and you idiot," she shouted at him. Falling on his, but he put his hand on top of his head, felling dread. "Azazel is going to kill me," he suddenly said, making Valley laugh a little. Gathering his senses, he then stood up and hugged Valley. "Thanks for this special gift you are going to me. I will do anything in my power to protect you and my child." This made Valley melt in his hug after feeling a new kind of warmth from the mate she never expected. "Azazel said he wants to see you tomorrow," she said, making Issei tremble. "I will die before I meet my child," he said, feeling scared of meeting his new father-in-law. They then spent the evening at Issei's. While Valley slept in the bed, Issei slept in the lounge. The next day, at Azazel's, Issei had just appeared in the castle to Azazel waiting for him. Azazel then stood up and started to walk towards Issei. He then walked past him and motioned Issei to follow him. Issei felt chills on his neck as he followed Azazel to a private study. Azazel took a sit and motioned Issei to do the same. Taking a seat, Azazel then asked, "What do you think of my daughter?" Gulping, Issei then answered, "She is a strong, appealing woman who is independent and doesn't want others to fight her battles." "What do you like about her?" "Everything about her. Her character and aura, it seems calm and perfect to me." "Issei, I won't lie. You are the first person my daughter showed interest in, and she seems happy. So know this, if you break her heart, I will break your everything," he said as his aura flickered. "I am actually glad that it's you. At least with you I know she will always be safe, and look, you have made me a grandpa this early," he said with a smile, lightening the mood. They started to have a friendly chat and jokes until Issei was about to go home. "Issei, seeing that I have put Valley's team on a secret mission and Valley can't use her sacred gear with the enemies, her and I see it fit for her to stay with you from now on, since she is kind of your wife, and please try to be quiet about this." Issei just nodded and left to his home to see the joys of his new, unexpected life. 1 week after, Issei was sitting at the back of the class when the teacher appeared through the door. "Good morning, class," she said, looking at her students. "So it seems we have a new student joining us today. Please enter and state your name. Also, class, this is your time to ask questions. Only 3. We then see a white-haired beauty walking through the door, making everyone look at her as if they had seen an angel. She was a tad more appealing than Rias, who was the leader in school in terms of beauty. This surprised the other devils as they clearly knew who she was. "Hello, my name is Valine Ackerman, but just call me Vale, or else. Let's get along." She introduced herself calmly. Everyone soon raised their hands except for Issei the angel and the devils. Vale then chose 3 students, 2 girls and 1 boy. "Where are you from?" "I am from Europe but was born in America." "Why are you here?" "I unexpectedly found someone special to me here, so I thought it was better to be close to him." "Would you want to go out with me sometime?" asked the boy, but before Vale could answer, a cold aura started to gather around Issei. "Matsuda, don't you dare ask such questions ever, and would you guys stop staring lewdly at my woman? You're creeping her out." With a cold voice and a blank face, he made every boy stop staring at Vale and look down. Matsuda just gulped, feeling scared. This was the very first time Issei had talked in class ever. Every boy was angry at Issei. He had claimed the new beauty himself, like her choice didn't matter. "Isuke, I can take care of myself, you know that, right?" This shocked the whole class, even the devils. Kiba then smiled after realizing what was going on. The new girl had called Issei her love in front of everyone. The boys boiled with jealousy at Issei for taking their chances away from an appealing girl, while all the girls envied Vala for dating Issei. By the end of the day, news had spread like wildfire that Issei was dating the most appealing woman in school. To them it was a match made in heaven. Every gender envied the white-haireds as they walked to the ORC club room to meet up with the supernaturals in Kuo. As they entered the door, they saw Sona and her peerage at the left and Rias and her peerage at the right. Rias and the rest of the girls were glaring daggers at Vale. "Hello, my old comrades, how have you been?" He greeted everyone in the room he knew. Suddenly he saw 7 guys he didn't know their names but knew who they were. Looking at the group of boys, he then said, "Hello, my name is Issei Hayu, let's get along," and bowed, showing respect. Upon hearing his name, the boys went stiff and didn't reply. "Are you the same Issei who has defeated gods?" asked one of the boys. "You must be the guys who replaced me," he said. "That was the old me, the one with the boosted gear. Now I am just a somebody who once had power," he said, showing a smile. "I mean, right now I don't have an aura," he said while laughing. "Darling, don't be too modest. I'm sure they know of how you beat me," suddenly said the white-haired woman. The new pawns knew a lot about this woman. She was a princess of the fallen angels and an heir to the house of Lucifer. She was a star in terms of status, and if you wanted to rise up the ranks, she was one way of it. These new pawns had joined Rias' peerage, trying to rise through ranks since it was an upcoming team thanks to Issei, but now it was going bad, so all them started to think of ways to get the angel in front of them to themselves. Issei, realizing this, unsheathed his right arm and a dense white aura started to be released, catching the attention of the pawns. "I might be weak, but do anything, think anything, or try to take my woman here, I will cut you out of existence." Realizing the seriousness in his voice and aura, they slowly nodded while the girls felt jealous of Vale. Issei then sheathed his hand in his bandages and laughed. "You should have seen your faces. Okay, so shall we get to business? The reason Vale is here is because Azazel asked me to protect Vale. For some certain reasons she can't use her sacred gear or fight, so I asked Surzex Naisama and he said I should tell you that you are supposed to protect Vale. She is your first priority above all else," he said so seriously that nobody bothered him. Kiba, Gasper and Suji stood up front and said, "For you, our friend, we would die for Vale." This surprised all the girls. Sons and the girls of her peerage sided with Rias and were not pleased, but it was an order from Lucifer himself, so they couldn't deny. Suddenly a magic circle appeared in the room and out came Kuroka. Kaneko was pleased to see her sister here, but why was she here? Without a moment's hesitation, she attacked Vale in a hug. "How is my friend and nephew doing?" she asked, confusing everyone. "Craving sweets, but Issei doesn't want go buy me some." Kuroka stood up and looked at Issei. "Issei, is that how you treat your baby mama and wife?" she said, pointing a finger at him. It shocked everyone to hear that Vale was Issei's wife, but then a little longer everyone was surprised to hear that Vale was Piarjanin T and Issei was the father, no less. Rias, realizing this, was so angry she reflexively fired a orb of destruction towards Valley, but in an instant Issei had vanished and appeared in front of Valley. Unsheathing his hand, he gathered the blue energy of his in his hand and swiped down, releasing a slash of blue energy completely engulfing the orb and imploded on itself. He then released his aura, and it was like a tornado was inside the room and made each and all kneel where they stood, being overwhelmed. Try another trick like that and I will show you the power I have been hiding. Put her life and my unborns in danger. I swear you will see the rage of a dragon firsthand," he said, sheathing his hand, completely extinguishing the aura he had released. They all knew he still had power even after losing the boosted gear, but that was something on a whole different level. Rias then stood up and ran to Issei, crying, "Issei, I wanted to be the first to give you children. But I thought you loved me. Don't you love me anymore? Don't you want me anymore? Is me Issei, your fiancé, the one who loves you?" she cried while screaming. "Don't you want to touch my melons? They are all yours if you want." This was angering both Issei and Valley, but Valley was at her limit. Releasing her cold aura, she walked over to them and pulled Rias by her shoulder, making her turn and see the scariest face ever. That, combined with the aura, made the whole room flinch, even Issei. "I haven't forgiven what you and your girls did to my dear hubby. Try another fit like that and I will forget I am PRNT and end you personally with my own hands," she said, smiling. Kuroka was now sitting on the sofa eating popcorn, watching the scene unravel, and Issei was surprised seeing his wife threaten the girls so badly he felt scared himself. The girls, understanding the situation, nodded and backed away in defeat. The repairs to the room were now being done by the new pawns whilst looking at Valley. Suddenly another magic circle, one all too familiar, appeared on the floor. It belonged to the House of Phoenix, and out came Ruvel Phoenix, the older brother of Riser, looking all cocky and dressed like a bad boy. "Valley Lucifer, I am here to take your hand in marriage by order of the High Council." The End Dragon vs. Phoenix, previously on Issei's Betrayal. "Valley, by order of the High Council, I am here to take your hand in marriage." This caught everyone's attention. Issei was surprised, so was Valley. Rias and the girls were happy whilst the new pawns were completely puzzled, clueless of who the man was. Regaining her thoughts, Valley walked forward and looked Ruvel in the eyes. "Where did you get such an absurd idea? Why would I marry you, fried turkey?" "Because the High Council said so and because I asked for it. I am an ultimate class devil, so I asked them, saying I am on reviving the Lucifer clan with my family's attribute, and they agreed. So you are now my wife. And you think about asking me first? Your choice does not matter. After all, you are just a woman. You are nothing more than a baby-making machine." As soon as he finished his last sentence, he was surprised to see Issei in front of him in a flash and close in his face, smiling like a child. "Hi, Ruvel. Do you remember me? I am the guy who beat up your brother for taking someone's freedom away, but I can beat you up for just talking like that about Valley," he said, smiling in a childish voice. The onlookers knew that this was a threat and kept quiet, but to Ruvel it was craziness. "Know your place, you filthy animal. People respected you when you were the Red Dragon Emperor, but that faded away the day you lost the gauntlet. Interfere in this matter that doesn't concern you, who is not a devil anymore, and will kill you where you stand." Issei didn't want conflict to arise, so just turned around. "Valley, just give me some time and I will figure this out. I am not capable of fighting a way out for now," he said whilst giving her a reassuring smile. Ruvel opened a magic circle and disappeared, leaving a speechless room. "Kiba, I am leaving Valley in your hands. I got some business to take care of," Issei said, making his own magic circle and left. Issei immediately appeared in Surzek's office. Surzek and Grafia were surprised to see Issei in the office with a serious face on. "Zexnai-sama, I think I am going to cash in that favor now. I would like to ask if you can do anything to break of Ruvel's and Vala's absurd marriage." This shocked both adults. Where was this request coming from? But nonetheless Surzek answered, "I cannot do that. It's out of my hands." When Vala decided to join the alliance, conditions were set up that she was to be under the management of the High Council, which is a separate party from mine. I do not have any power over them. But she cannot marry him no matter the circumstances. "And why not, Issei? Why is Valley important to you all of a sudden?" Surzek asked. "Because she's mine. He roared out. She's my mate and because she's PR'd with my child. He said, surprising the adults. Suddenly Issei was hugged by both adults. Grafia then pinched Issei's cheek. How dare you not tell your own older siblings that they are gonna have a nephew? That's not nice, Issei. I did, but with our enemies it would make her a perfect target. We wanted to keep it hush-hush. Okay, this makes the situation complicated. I can't stop the engagement, but I can change the groom, but they are not going to let someone who is not a devil to marry her. Good thing I got you this. Surzex said, pulling out a box and opened it to reveal a transparent chess piece, a king piece. I know how much dragons value their freedom, so I asked Ajuka to make one of these, an extra piece, or as it is called, a transparent piece, a piece with no emistar or peerage, but you only serve the Mao and Lucifer only. He said as he handed it to Issei. They then made preparations and drew a magic circle on the ground. Issei lied down on the circle and the piece floated and merged with Issei, giving of a white light. Issei, since that is done, the only way to save our sister-in-law is to go to the High Council and ask to fight Ruvel for Vala's hand. They will accept. He said, making a magic circle, making Issei disappear in it to his next location. Issei then appears in a hall full of old men and women. Upon arrival, this got the attention of all them. Young man, what are you doing here? This is not just any place, asked one old guy who sat above the rest. I am here to correct a mistake you made. I am asking you to let me fight Ruvel for Vala's hand. He said, and who are you, young man? I am Surzek's extra piece. After hearing the boy's sentence, chatter started to go around in the room. Since you are not the only one who has came here to ask the same request, we have decided to have a battle royal. The remaining two will then fight for her hand. The one on top said, making Issei more frustrated. He then left and went back to his home to see Vali seating on the sofa eating a tub of ice cream with Kuroka in the kitchen cooking. He felt so happy to see her this relaxed. Vala's teammates later came and ate dinner with the three and left. Right now we see Issei and Vali in their bed. Issei, can I ask why haven't you let anyone feel your aura or see your true power? She asked. When I reached my class, I knew I would be the center of attention. When people know, they are going to do anything they can to reincarnate me into their peerages or marry of their daughters to me, and if I deny all of it, they will fear me and end up planning against me. I mean, look at Drake and Albion, they are now in sacred gears because people were afraid of what they couldn't control. But they are now looking down on me and messing with my life. It's time I put them in their places. And like that, they went to sleep preparing for the next day. The next day, we see everyone heading to a stadium to attend a battle royal. All contestants had already arrived and were waiting for the game to begin. Among the crowd, Issei saw all 7 pawns of Rias. They had entered the competition too. Rias had ordered them to enter the competition and stop Issei from winning by all means, but they had planned to betray their answer and try to win for their own statuses to rise. Attention one and all. I am Grafia, the Queen of Surzex, and today I will be the announcer for the Battle Royal for Vali Lucifer's hand in marriage. Without a further ado, let the game begin. Intensity started to overwhelm the arena. The amount of aura coming from it was so crazy that any weakling there would faint immediately. Before the fight started, Issei yelled, "Oi, everybody listen up," and everyone stopped fighting to listen to the boy. I am going to say this only once. Those who were forced to be here or don't want to die today, I would kindly advise that you leave the arena. Everyone started to laugh at Issei. How could a boy barely releasing a shred of aura make such a threat? It was a joke to them until a blazing white aura started to erupt from the boy as he unsheathed his hands and feet. The aura itself felt as if it belonged to low-tier ultimate-class devil. In a single and abrupt swipe of his hand from right to left, a slash of dark blue energy erupted from his hand, immediately knocking out all the low-class and mid-class devils in the area. Everyone now understood the severity and seriousness of the situation. That was barely 50% of my power. I don't want to kill anyone today, so I will say this again. All those who don't want to die today, please retire from the arena. Hearing him the second time made it even more scarier, and without a second to spare, basically all of the contestants retired. Only 8 people other than Issei remained in the arena. The 7 Gremory pawns and Ruvel. Ruvel, would you mind waiting? I got trash to throw out, said Issei, looking at the boys. The fact that all 7 of you took the exact number of prices I alone took says something, but doesn't mean if you gang up on me you will win. I don't recall teaching you a lesson for using my exes to get famous and power," said Issei as he vanished from in front of them to the back. "You. I am here, boys, where are you looking at?" Slowly all the boys turned around to see Issei sitting on the ground playing with his hands. This made him look like a psychopath. "This is a lesson you are going to learn once. Never mess with something that belongs to a dragon," he said, looking at them, and backed down. This just made the boys paranoid. Not knowing when or how he would attack, considering his speed and considerable power, it would be unforeseen. In the next moment Issei had vanished and formed his tail sword from the aura that had been leaking from his body and slashed a line right in front of the feet belonging to all the boys and reappeared in front of them again. They looked down and saw that the boy had missed them on purpose and wrote on the ground, "This time I won't miss," in caps. The boys started to sweat so badly they soaked their own clothes. They then looked towards Issei and saw him holding out his sword in front of him and slashed his sword diagonally, and several blue energy slashes started heading towards the men and were engulfed by them. Ladies and gentlemen, it seems that all the other participants have retired, leaving 2 parties. So let the final battle begin. Everyone was perplexed. What had just happened? Issei had made all the other contestants leave in just a few minutes after the battle started. Was he that scary, or was his power just too much to make the other contestants leave? It was all too confusing, but what was worrying most of the leaders was why everyone not in the artificial dimension not feeling any aura from Issei, because they could clearly see it, but why couldn't they feel it? Was a barrier enclosing the dimension or what? Sorry for taking too long to clear out the field. I just wanted it to be us, just like at your little brother's engagement. Ruvel was surprised to see his aura being low-tier ultimate-class devil and immediately fluctuated. Now he knew he was powerful, but compared to him he was a pebble. "You got some guts to face me. You K.O. Unlike Riser, I am not weak, and no matter how many times you try you won't beat me. I will never be beaten by such a lowly creature as you. Maybe if you still had the boosted gear you have had a chance. Now leave before I kill you," he said, feeling proud and confident in his power. Issei just shook his head sideways and vanished and appeared in front of Ruvel, giving him a right hook on his cheek. Ruvel was stunned to see the boy vanish without a trace, but luckily saw him about to punch him and dodged. "What, you dodged?" asked Issei, sarcastically smiling. "Maybe I should get serious," he said, scratching his head. Rise from the infinite depth. Moonpiecer, there Issei was adorned in his white gauntlets and white boots with his tail pointing up and the end targeting Ruvel. His left eye then turned emerald and both started to glow, emitting an aura that seemed like smoke, and his aura started to feel like an ultimate-class devil again. The spectators and faction leaders then felt his aura. It was now stronger than when he fought Valet. Everyone could feel it was ultimate class and wondered how the boy was this stormy without the gear. "So you were hiding your power after..." Before Ruvel could finish, he had barely dodged a surprise punch from Issei. "Enough talking. You had your chance but you didn't. You went demanded my woman's hand in marriage without asking. Of course I would have said no, but I would warn you from doing it. I am going to teach you a lesson that your parents didn't teach. Ask first." Issei then vanished again and this time landed a punch on his right cheek, and it didn't do any damage. Ruvel was shocked. By the speed he had used, the punch would have stung a lot, but it had done nothing. Pulling back his fist, he was attacked by a fireball and it hit his gut, making Issei puke out BLD from his mouth. This confused Ruvel. He could have dodged the attack but took it head-on. What was going on here? Issei backed up and stood up again and vanished again and fed Ruvel an uppercut. Ruvel spat out BLD, feeling the difference between his first punch and the last. Ruvel didn't want to keep this battle going on for long and launched a fireball at Issei, making him kneel. Taking this opportunity into account, Ruvel then fired 10 consecutive fireballs at Issei. After each colored with the target, it would make the surrounding flame bigger. Ruvel did expect the flames to kill Issei, but to weaken him to such an extent, but was surprised to see Issei walking out the flames of the flames whilst stretching his body. Ruvel then threw another fireball, but instead Issei just batted away with the back of his palm like it was nothing and vanished again. this time going for the gut, making Ruvel spit out BLD. Wearing no time, Issei roundhouse kicked him in the stomach, making Ruvel spit more BLD, adding more power to his fireball. He fired it at Issei, scathing his face, and Issei retaliated by kicking him in the stomach, breaking Ruvel's bones, but immediately healed them up. He released that the power contained in each attack varied going up, but decided to wait a bit more to completely understand what was going on. Issei vanished again and punched him in the stomach, this time piercing through it, making a little hole in his abdomen, but immediately was healed. Issei cocked back his fist and moved it again, blowing a hole in his abdomen again. In a VIP room, we see Valicity G in this luxury booth with Azazel, Michael, the four Mao, and Grafia. Azazel had noticed something about Issei fighting and decided to ask everyone in the room. Have you guys noticed what is happening with Issei's punches? Everyone nodded. It seems that every time he punches his power is boosted, said Ajuka. Does he still have the boosted gear's powers and didn't tell us? Asked Michael, confused about the Longinus. It seems so, but why would he to hide that fact for? Asked Azazel. As Grafia was about to talk, Valley interjected her. You are all wrong. Completely wrong, she said, getting the attention of everyone in the room. Everyone raised their eyebrows, wondering what she was saying. And who would you know that? Asked Grafia, feeling undermined. Come, are you gonna ask that? I sleep with the guy in the same bed. Plus Albion and I felt something our first day there and asked him about it. Yes, it looks like his boosting, but it's totally different. What is it? Asked a totally intrigued Azazel. It's one of his 2 draconic attributes. It's just like Draig's boost, transfer and penetrate, or Albion's divide, compress and reflect. He called it build up. His powers depends on how much of his aura he lets out. Since now he is letting out ultimate class aura, his attack power starts at lower tier ultimate class. Ruvel is a higher tier ultimate class, so the attack first seems harmless. After the first attack his power builds up, and when he attacks the damage is increased, and after the second attack his power builds up again and goes on after every attack, increasing its attack power and damage. That's how now you see his attacks actually ripping through Ruvel's body, she said calmly, making the leaders amazed at such a technique. But what caught Azazel's attention was that she had said 2. So which was the other? And the second? Azazel, a king. Everyone remember what she had first said, and everyone looked at her expecting an answer. The second was called Tolerant, and just like build up it works with the aura he releases. His defense starts at lower tier ultimate class. That's why his attack made Issei puke BLDUR. After attack he receives his body starts to gain, let's say, immunity from the full effect of the attack. That's why after 10 fireball he was able to bat away the next fireball. His defense was now stronger to take on the attack without taking damage. But after the fight both attributes reset and start again on a new fight. After hearing this, everyone was in thought about his attributes. All of them lead to one conclusion, that if Issei was a really powerful being, with these attributes nobody could take him down. But rose the question of how did get these techniques. Do you know how he got these techniques? Asked Michael, followed by Azazel nodding. Just a little more patience and you will find out, Shah said, smiling at the old geezers. By now each of Issei's attack was now literally destroying Ruvel's body. He had just given him a punch to his side and his whole right side of his entire body was destroyed. Rival couldn't take it anymore. His brain was under too much stress. It had to concentrate on healing his body, attacking and trying to defend, and the regeneration rate of his body was now taking longer than usual. Why did you lie about losing the boosted gear? He then asked, feeling defeat is near. I never lied about that. Then how could someone like you be able to defeat me? I saw the tape of the raiding game. You won by using dragon slaying techniques, and I'm not a dragon. I should have won, he said, slitting BLD. Issei stood where he stand. You lost the moment you underestimated me. I beat Valley using dragon slaying techniques because it would shorten the battle. I didn't want to prolong it because I would have been forced to use my true power, but I didn't want that. I had preferred to keep this secret forever, but because you people are looking down on me and walking all over me, it's time I teach you a lesson about touching my stuff. Issei then unsheathed his whole body and released all of his aura. The sheer power of it was suffocating Ruvel Phoenix, while all the warlords and veterans who partook in the Great War felt horror when they felt his aura, being reminded of 2 similar auras that managed to reduce their number. Michael and Azazel drowned in their seats, remembering the only time they felt such an aura. The spectators were silent in their feeling such a scary aura for the first time in their lives. The new Mao faction were speechless in their seats. Surzex was amazed by the aura itself. This aura challenged that of all the gods present and could actually make Surzex and Ajuka fight seriously. The reason I went away was not only for a change of character and space but a change of titles and destinies. I was in Wells most of the 6 months I was presumably dead. I am Issei of the Wygotch, student, pupil and successor of Draig of the Wygotch. I am the moon-piercing heavenly dragon, the next Welsh dragon emperor. Just like Draig and Albion, I am wielder of the abilities Build Up and Tolerance, he said with his aura shaping itself like a flame and grew running wildly and loosely, like a wildfire. All the dragons that showed up at the event them started roaring so loud shaking the buildings. From their sacred gear and jewels, respectively, Albion and Draig them roared themselves, as if it was a coronation of some sort and they all went silent. As if on cue Issei took a deep breath and roared as loud as he can breaking the very ground he stood on leaving a crater. Couple made in heaven, hell blaze, Ruvel called out being fed up with Issei's talking. I am an aristocrat and a member to the Phoenix family. I won't accept losing to such a creature as low as you. He said as his flames started to become black and increasing the temperature in the arena. These are the hottest flames ever. Flames used by the original Satan, hellfire, and I'm going burn you to the ground. All of Ruvel's wounds started to heal and looked a little more energetic. He then vanished and appeared in front of Issei with his arm held up following through giving him a clean punch. The force of the punch moved him back but it seemed to have done no damage to Issei. Your strength has increased. Even your speed. So this is your trump card? Issei said. That is correct. Hellfire boosts my speed and strength and physical stats to rival that of the original Lucifer himself. Other than that, since I am a devil, the energy from this fire continuously gives me energy. Like this I could fight you for days non-stop. Now get ready, here I come. Ruvel said as he sprinted forward ready to kick Issei in the face. The kick landed. Due to the force alone an air wave erupted destroying the arena and a cloud of dust rose. Ruvel was so sure that the kick had done much damage. As the dust settled, he and everyone else was surprised to see Issei still standing in the exact spot with Ruvel's foot on his face. He had blocked such a kick with only his face. Ruvel was deadpanned. That stung, but give it a little more oomph, Issei said. Ruvel was pissed. He stepped back and powered up again. Mastering all his might, he created a ball of fire and started to condense it, making it smaller every second. He then threw it at Issei and upon impact it exploded, destroying everything in its vicinity. Ruvel was really hoping he had finished him off. The fireball was so powerful enough it could melt down an entire town like it was nothing, so it would be impossible for him to survive. The flames suddenly died down and there stood Issei with his right hand forward. He had put out the flames with his hand only. Ruvel was now scared. What kind of monster was he facing off? How aren't you burning from my flames? These flames destroy anything they touch, even some gods fear these very flames. So why aren't you screaming in agony? Any flame that isn't as powerful as mine can't do anything to me. What flame? You don't have any flame. Issei then lifted his hand and a light blue whitish flame appeared in his hand. It was the same light he had been releasing the whole time. This flame is my flame. It is so hot it burns everything into nothing. It is similar to the power of destruction, but mine is a super hot flame. Me being given the title of Moon-Slaying Dragon Emperor is not a joke. My flames are powerful enough to burn down the moon. If I am serious, a single step on it will make it implode on itself. Ruvel, do not forget it took 3 armies and the 4 Satans to put 2 people of my caliber to rest. Know your place. Issei lit a flame as big as him. The flame itself was so hot it made the temperature in the arena rise to the point where Ruvel was actually struggling to breathe. Then and there Ruvel fainted on the ground due to dehydration. The game was over and Ruvel was covered in a light. He had retired. Issei was also covered in a light and appeared in a changing room. There was a suit waiting for him. It was crimson. To him it reminded him of all the things he had to go through. loosing Drake, Rias and all he had done for the ORC. He snapped his finger and the suit started to change color. It became white. He then wore the trousers and the blazer without buttoning it, leaving his bandages out in the open. He was going to the after party where the official engagement of Valley and him was going to be announced. He was so happy. He was finally going to be recognized as Valley's fiancé. He was so prepared. He had even bought the biggest gem he saw and had the store imprint a heart shape on it. He exited the room to see the men of the Valley team waiting outside, also wearing suits. "Hey boss man, are you ready?" Biko asked, looking at Issei. Issei just nodded and smiled. "You idiots actually look civilized for once," he said, making them cringe with anger. "Let's get going, I don't want to keep my lady waiting." And just like that they went to the hall. Everyone was talking and socializing in the hall. The chatter wasn't that noisy. Suddenly the door opened. Everyone turned to the door. There he was. Everyone was opening a way for him to pass. They were all scared. They had never been so close to such a monster with power that made gods flinch at sensing it. He was walking normally, which to him was dragging his feet, walking lazily towards the table that had been set up front, which was being swarmed by reporters. As he was walking there, the reporters suddenly started to go over to him and ask him questions which he just ignored while walking to her, the love of his life. He walked towards her and took a sit next to her. Their hands intertwined and a smile creeped onto Vala's face. She had missed being close to her man. The only guy to ever make her act like a real woman. "Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Surzex Lucifer and we are gathered here today for a special announcement. Today a battle royale was held in order to determine who would marry the last daughter of the Lucifer clan. During we learnt that in the game was also participating someone outstandingly strong who later on became the champion. The winner of the battle royale is none other than Issei, the moon-slaying dragon emperor." The reporters were so surprised that they halted all their actions for a second. When they regained their perspective, they immediately went to Issei to ask him all sorts of questions. Issei, being lazy, just stared at them and kept quiet while not answering any of their questions. "Excuse me, Issei Haidu, weren't engaged with Rias Gremry. What happened between you and the little sister of the current Lucifer?" Issei was actually getting angry. Why couldn't these damned reporters manage their own business and try not to cause me any trouble? He was about to cause an outburst, but Surzex beat him to it. "That is a private matter and we would enjoy it if you would stay out of it," he said. The reporter understood then and there that if she pushed this topic further it would end badly for her. The press conference went on as usual with Issei as quiet as a church mouse. It had just ended and he was walking away with his woman interlocking hands with Valley smothering him so much he just giggled. Every noble was trying as strong as they could to get his attention, but to their dismay it was like they didn't exist. He led Valley to a balcony where there was no one in sight and was lit by the appealing underworld sky. "Why did you bring me here?" she asked while in the arms of Issei. Issei then swung her around so she could face him. "Vala, I know neither of us expected this. I would marry after what happened 6 months ago, no less to you, but it turns out that you are the best thing to ever happen to me. You turned my lonely and boring world into something great and I would like to spend all of my eternity with you by my side." Issei then knelt down and took out a black box and opened it to reveal the biggest gem I had ever seen. "Will you marry me?" Issei said, looking up to face Valley. Remind you that Valley only acted like a girl her age when she was with Issei. She was oozing tears from her eyes like a geyser. She jumped up and down and hugged Issei. "Yes, I will," she said while taking the ring and placing it on her finger. "I do bring out the embarrassing part of you, don't I?" Issei said, laughing, making Valley pout. "You know, I just wanted to do this stuff right. I didn't want you to feel as if this was forced on us. Even if it was forced, I would still be happy as long as it is you," she said, holding on to Issei as they were heading back into the hall. As they entered, Kuroka, Biko, Lefei, Arthur and Fenrir were waiting for them holding wine glasses. "Did she cry?" asked Kuroka while smiling. "Like a baby," Issei replied, making everyone laugh. Valley then punched on the shoulder so strong he flew into a wall. "So y'all knew about this and didn't tell me about it. Now look, I embarrassed myself." Valley was giving a scary look and then she smiled. Best surprise ever. Everyone sighed out of relief. But do that again and I will end you personally. She finished, making the team gulp out of fear. Issei came out of the wall and everyone was looking at him and started laughing. Issei then went to stand next to Valley. Lord Phoenix then came up to Issei. Behind him was Ravel. She had been trailing her father. Hello, Dragon Emperor. It's great to see you alive and kicking. When I heard the news of your death I was disappointed, but even more disappointed when you broke of your engagement to my daughter. Hello, Lord Phoenix. I was much more disappointed 6 months ago. By the way, I am sorry for beating another son of yours. No, I should be the one asking for forgiveness about that. He tried taking something of yours without asking, and for all the trouble he caused my daughter here will be acting as your servant. He said, gesturing to his daughter. I am sorry but humbly decline your offer. I don't want anywhere near me. Issei said, walking away. Sorry, but I wasn't offering. I will not let such a precious person like you go. Yes, my daughter messed up, but she is not going to marry anyone other than you. I want my family to have that power of yours. I want to rival the Gremarys and Bales, and the only way to get it is by having my child bear your children. Even if I have to take you, I will make sure that you marry my daughter. Lord Phoenix said with the most serious face on. Issei had stopped walking away. He had taken in every single word the man had said and it was ticking him off. He turned around. Suddenly the ground started cracking and breaking. Suddenly a crater formed right beneath Issei's feet. How greedy are you bastards? He took a step forward and a tremor hit the whole hall. Everyone's attention had been cast onto Issei and Lord Phoenix. Issei took another step, shaking the hall and making everyone lose their balance. He made his way to Lord Phoenix slowly. Lord Phoenix was in his own world. As Issei was heading towards him, he could see a ferocious white dragon closing in on him. He could feel the temperature around him change. He felt like he was being preyed on and there was nothing he could do but stand still. Issei was now right in front of him. Both of his eyes were emerald and his fangs were showing. Issei then turned around and his aura was back to normal. He looked around and was deadpanned at the amount of damage he had done. He snapped his finger and in bright flash of light the hall had been repaired and all the injured had been healed with their attires cleaned. The tables were replaced and on top of them was new food that looked even tastier than before. Lord Phoenix was still stuck in the same position. Issei snapped his finger and the Lord's consciousness had returned. He looked at Issei and immediately ran away. Issei then went to seat on his table with Valley and the Valley team. The others dishes themselves. Callie and Issei were the only ones that went overboard. They had trays of food for themselves. The whole team was stunned at the amount of food these two were eating. Issei looked at Valley's tray and started to laugh. What are you laughing at, you overgrown lizard? Valley asked, shocking the team. Look at the size of your plate. Looks like MD Everest, you white-haired tomboy. Well, I am PRT, what's your excuse? Issei's sweat dropped, realizing that he had no excuse and instead started eating his food. Valley grinned, seeing Issei defeated, and she started eating hers. In mere moment it was now a competition between the two. Back in Kuo Valley, Waki's in the schoolyard with Issei in tow holding her unusually large backpack. Issei was now her pack mule, ND, thanks to that she could get away with anything. She would always order him to get her all the food she craved, and thanks to the mood swings she was always pissed off, making her more scary. The beginning, it had been months after the total defeat of